Zaria stood outside the Whitmore estate, her breath catching for a moment as she looked up at the mansion. It wasn't the size. Her family estate back in Maryland was 5 times bigger. It was the energy. Cold. Ornate. Like walking into a cathedral built for judgment. She wore a navy blue sheath dress. Simple. Elegant. Her curls were swept into a low bun, her skin radiant against the setting sun. Ethan took her hand. "You look incredible," he whispered. Zaria smiled. "Thanks. You sure she wants to meet me this time?" He hesitated. "Let's just say," she agreed. "That's a start." Inside, Margaret Whitmore was adjusting the crystal napkin holders for the 3rd time. Her pearls sat stiffly against her neck, as if choking her with every racist thought she refused to say out loud, yet. When the butler announced Zaria's arrival, Margaret didn't look up. "She's here," she said flatly. "Let the circus begin." Charles Whitmore, seated with a whiskey in hand, muttered, "Play nice." Margaret gave him a smile so tight it looked painful. "Oh, I will. I always do." The moment Zaria entered, Margaret's eyes scanned her like a scanner at the airport, checking for something dangerous, illegal, or unworthy. "Zaria again," she said, walking over with outstretched hands that didn't quite reach. "I was expecting someone different." Zaria's smile never faltered. "Yes, it's lovely to meet you again. I hope the ride here wasn't too confusing. These gated communities can be a lot if you're not used to them." Ethan stepped forward, his jaw tightening. "Zaria's lived in gated communities all her life, Mom." "Of course," Margaret replied, eyes narrowing. "A lot of, athletes and entertainers do these days." Zaria felt it. That first sharp twist of the knife. But she didn't flinch. She took a seat like a queen being seated at her coronation. Dinner was served. Lamb chops. Truffle potatoes. Wine that tasted like melted judgment. Margaret leaned in, resting her chin on one hand. "So, Zaria, what do your parents do? Or should I say, your parent?" Ethan dropped his fork. "Mom." Zaria didn't blink. "Both my parents are still together, actually. My father owns a private holdings firm. He prefers staying out of the spotlight." Margaret chuckled. "Oh, how mysterious. I suppose in your world that could mean anything. Hedge funds? Or street lottery?" Ethan stood halfway up from his chair. "Enough." But Zaria gently touched his arm, calming him. Later that night, after Zaria left and Ethan went to get her car, Margaret cornered her in the hallway. "Listen to me," she said, low and venomous. "You may have fooled him, but I see what this is. You're a pretty face chasing money and financial security. A black girl with a sob story hoping to marry rich." Zaria didn't speak. "Not yet. You'll never be one of us," Margaret hissed. "I don't care what school you went to or what story you tell. You weren't raised in our world. And my son deserves better." Zaria looked her in the eye. "Is that what he deserves, or what you need to believe?" Margaret stepped forward. "You're a gold digger, Zaria. Don't dress it up. I know your type." Zaria smiled. "Not the weak kind. Not the wounded kind. The kind that said you have no idea who you're talking to." A week passed. Then 2. Zaria didn't reach out. Not even to Ethan. And Ethan, torn between love and a mother who made it her life's mission to plant seeds of doubt, was losing sleep. Meanwhile, the Whitmore family's company, Whitmore Global, was crumbling behind its polished doors. 3 major contracts had fallen through. 1 major partner had shifted to a rival. And now, their only shot at stabilizing was a lucrative multi-billion-dollar logistics contract from a low-key but powerful East Coast conglomerate. Charles Whitmore paced in his home office, running his hand through his graying hair. "What's the name of the firm again?" he asked the assistant on speaker. "Lawson Group Holdings, sir," came the reply. "Private. Discreet. But extremely liquid. They just bought out 4 logistics networks in the last quarter." Margaret walked into the office, wine glass in hand. "Lawson? That sounds like a rich one. I really hope they can help us. Those are the Tipranoff connections I like." Charles turned and said, "If they give us this contract, it will help us rise again." 2 days later, Charles was scheduled to meet the chairperson of Lawson Group Holdings at a quiet hotel suite in downtown Boston. He walked in, briefcase in hand, wearing his best smile and even better cologne. And there, seated on the cream leather chair, legs crossed, eyes calm as still water, was Zaria. He froze. She looked up from the document in her hand, not even blinking. "Mr. Whitmore. You." "I'm Zaria Lawson. My father asked me to handle your proposal personally." Silence. She motioned to the papers on the desk. "I've gone through your figures. There's potential. But your projected delivery rates are too optimistic. Your staff is downsizing. And frankly, you're underestimating competition." He opened his mouth, closed it. Margaret's voice echoed in his head. "She's a gold digger. She has nothing." He swallowed hard. I didn't know. You never said." Zaria leaned back. "I never needed to." He shifted. "Listen, Zaria. I had no idea. My wife, she didn't know." "Oh, she knew exactly what she was saying." Zaria's tone was ice. "The difference is, she assumed money belongs only to people who look like her. She assumed wealth doesn't wear melanin." Charles looked like a child. Small. Exposed. "I need this contract," he said quietly. "My company." Zaria stood up, her voice sharper now. "You mean the same company I was accused of trying to gold dig my way into? That company?" His face burned. "I'm sorry. I truly am. We misjudged you." She smiled again. That same quiet, elegant, unforgiving smile. "You didn't misjudge me. You judged me correctly, for who you are." Meanwhile, at the estate, Margaret was sipping tea on the patio when Ethan came in, looking pale. His father had just told him what happened. "I know who Zaria is." Margaret raised an eyebrow. "Of course you do. She's a manipulative. She's the daughter of the man whose company is about to either save us or let us drown." The teacup froze midair. "What?" "She is Lawson Group. Her father owns it. And she's the one they sent to review our proposal." Margaret's face collapsed in slow motion. "And, mother?" Ethan added, his voice barely above a whisper. "If we lose this contract, it's because of you." The Whitmore estate looked smaller now. Not in size, but in stature. Zaria's car, sleek, black, and silent as grace itself, pulled into the driveway. Ethan opened the front door before she even rang the bell. He looked nervous. Awkward. Like someone caught between gratitude and guilt. "Thanks for coming," he said. Zaria nodded, stepping inside. Margaret was waiting in the drawing room, her pearls gone. Her makeup lighter. Her posture still straight, but hollow. "Zaria," she said stiffly. "I." Zaria raised a hand. "Please don't. Let's not do the empty apology performance. You didn't invite me here to make peace. You invited me here to feel better." Margaret flinched. "I didn't mean what I said that day. I was just—" "No," Zaria interrupted, calm and piercing. "You did mean it. That's the point. You meant every word. You said I was a gold digger. You said I didn't belong. You insulted my character, my culture, and my skin." Margaret swallowed hard. "It was a mistake." Zaria stepped closer. "No, Margaret. A mistake is forgetting someone's name. What you did was a choice. You chose to see me as less." Ethan stood to the side, speechless. Zaria turned to him. Her tone softened. "You asked me once why I never told you who I really was. The truth is, I didn't hide anything. I was always myself. You just never needed to know because it didn't define me." She turned back to Margaret. "But you needed it to define me. Because your power relies on believing you're better than people who look like me." Margaret's face crumbled. Her eyes welled with tears. She wasn't sure she had the right to cry. "You have every right to hate me," she whispered. "I don't hate you," Zaria said. "I pity you. You thought you were protecting your son. But you were just showing him what fear looks like in pearls and privilege." As Zaria walked to the door, Margaret called out, "Will you still give us the contract?" Zaria paused. "I didn't come here for revenge," she said quietly. "My father believes in building bridges, not walls." She glanced at Ethan. "But just so we are clear, if it were up to me, your company would have already been dust." Then she smiled. That same, unshakable smile that glowed like a crown. Good night, Mrs. Whitmore. And just like that, Zaria left the house, dignified, unbothered, and untouched by their hatred. 2 months later, the Whitmores got the contract. Barely. But in the business world, Zaria Lawson became a name to remember, and not for who she dated, but for what she built. Ethan never stopped loving her. But sometimes, love isn't enough to undo the damage of silence. And Margaret? She never wore those pearls again. Never mistake someone's skin for their worth. Never assume your wealth makes you superior. Because the girl you call a gold digger today might own the company you're begging tomorrow. If you enjoy this story, please like, comment and subscribe. Until next time, stay curious, who knows what story we will uncover next.